All right, welcome in to kind of impromptu Ryan Ripken show. I wouldn't even call it the show. It's just impromptu. Ryan Ripken, hey, how you doing? Hope you guys are enjoying your hump day. Hope you're getting over that hump. I guess a lot happened. I didn't really have a chance to talk about it from last night. But baseball in general, just thought I got a few minutes. We can talk a little bit about baseball. Your questions. I am going to have some or a special guest joining to talk about injuries again. He's been a fan of the show, friend of the show, recurring member. So he's going to join us here momentarily, talk a little bit about what could be going on with Grayson and also what is that timeline that can be happening, to be completely honest. So we're going to see how that all unfolds. And that's just kind of the way the cookie's crumbling right now. So let's talk for a minute. We'll start here with the recent news. And Q, appreciate you, man. All right, so happy hump day. Two questions. One, will JD Davis see time as an Oriole this year? And two, are the O's fine? Maybe for JD. Definitely could see it. And the O's fine? Yeah. I mean, look, you just need to keep weathering the storm. It was a tough loss, to say the least, yesterday, but look, the Orioles are still one of the best teams in baseball. One rough inning, you could talk about decision making. I know there'll probably be a discussion here in a moment, but just to understand where teams are, where they're trying to go, yeah, the Orioles are still fine. And a lot of teams, we're going to go back to even last year with the Rangers. The Rangers had a lot of issues at this time of the year, and they were able to pick it up. And then their bullpen, which everyone thought was going to be a weakness, ended up being a strength down the stretch for them. Yeah, I shouldn't say strength. Their starting pitching turned it on. Their hitting was unbelievable, but then their bullpen figured it out at the right time. So we'll kind of see what happens. Um, you know, looking at, Matt, I know you got a lot of different ways, nice way to describe that fiasco with the game. Look, I don't like to put so much effort into tweets all the time about situations. So yesterday, I kind of kept it short and sweet. Um, but I would have loved Jackson Holliday to stay in the game. I would have loved for Colton Cowser to hit as well. I'm a big believer that even though analytics can help you with what's going on, personally, when a guy's swinging it well, it doesn't matter if he's right-handed, left-handed. You just have that certain feeling where you're locked in. When you are locked in, the Oriole or the players then can do certain things. And you don't care about the matchup. And to me, Jackson Holliday was locked in. Would have loved for him to continue that. He would have loved it. The competitor, he definitely is frustrated with that. I get it. And Cowser, same thing. Just you want to ride the guys that you have. So that's just the way it was. And I hope in the future it's not that case. And for Coby Mayo, I get the matchup, but I feel for Coby in the sense that, hey, you love that you get the at bat in there, but also that's a tough thing when you're in the big leagues, you still haven't, gotten over that hump of getting that hit. I would have liked just Coby to start the game, leave it to Colton, bring Coby in a different time. Sorry, let Coby start a game and let him hit. Coming to pinch hit in a situation he's never been in the big leagues, that's a lot to ask of a young player that's still trying to find himself. So um, that's what we have there. Let's go keep moving along the list. Um, boom, baby. If the Orioles lose Grayson Rodriguez for the season, and I know I'll go back up here, guys, in a minute, but this is what actually is going to be talked about. And no, the World Series dream isn't over if you lose a player. Does it hurt? Absolutely. But I'm not going to jump down this path right now yet. But we know what it would mean to lose Grayson Rodriguez, and so Yoni's going to come on. That's the guest. Yoni Rosenblatt's going to come on and talk about what the lat specifically and that injury, what it takes and how tricky it can be. We're going to break that all down. But yeah, you lose one of your guys on already a depleted starting rotation. It hurts, but no, it's not a death sentence by any means. Let's go back up here for a second. Any news on Danny Coulomb? I think things have standed pat for Danny. He's trying to continue to build up. You hope to have him for September, and you need a high leverage guy. You need a high leverage guy that you trust. Let me preface that. So Danny Coulomb is that type of guy. So you're hoping, but he's going to have to feel good. Personally, for me, I just hope Danny's ready for a postseason run. I don't need him to be back in September on September 5th or whatever they're expecting. I want Danny to be ready to go in October because that's when the Orioles are truly going to need him. Sean, I'm assuming you're asking, do you feel like Kimbrel is back? I think he's building back up. And look, for all the fans out there that just want to say, oh, he's washed, he's terrible. Guess what? The Orioles need him. They need him. And he showed over a sample size of 2.5 months how valuable he can be to the team. And I still believe he has that in him. So we got to see how that plays out. It's all going to work out, though. I promise you, it's all going to work out one way or another. And what I mean by that is, you hope he turns that corner, and if he does, you have him for next year, and you bring back Batista. And if it doesn't work out, and you're seeing some more decline, you're going to get an answer going into next year as well. So, but for the short term, I still believe in Craig, and if he didn't do what he did earlier this year to show you what he's capable of, then I would say, I got the reservations, but it's still in him. You just got to get him on the right path. Walter, why the inconsistent hitting for the Orioles? 15 hits, then 4 hits against a sub 500 team. Inexperience, analytics, your thoughts. Honestly, this is the beauty of baseball. You don't even need the analytics. It's some days you're red hot because you're seeing a pitcher well, and then you can just pass it on to the next guy. Other days, if a pitcher just has his game that day or has good stuff, and yesterday was one of those days where the Blue Jays, Bassett had it working, shut down a team. That's just the simple answer to it. And you could be on one of the best teams, one of the worst teams. If your starting pitcher goes out there and can set a tone, doesn't matter the team's record. That's why truly a pitcher can dictate the game so much. Cube, simulated bullpen for Felix. I think it's just trying to build up. I mean, maybe in the fairy tale, the Orioles make a run. You say, hey, we got him for the postseason. I still think 2025. I don't see that at all. You're looking at the long-term health of a guy you think is going to be your closer for years. And I don't want to rush him back after he's taken all this time to try to get back from a tough injury. So, again, if you guys are new to the channel, also hit that like and subscribe button. This is the Ryan Ripken media channel. It's the Ryan Ripken show. Kevin and Zach react to do all the post-game stuffs on the other channel. It's all a part of the same umbrella, though, by the way. But I want to be able, when I go live now, you're going to see my face or any videos that are happening on this channel, because I've gotten a lot of that. Where the heck's Ryan? All right, we'll stop traffic. When you see this pop up, I'm going to be on it. So you guys can know that moving forward. Andrew, and I get a lot of Orioles questions, which I'm all about. I'm all cool with that. So, Andrew, let's talk about this. Do you see any similarities between the 1983 Orioles and the 2024 Orioles? In 1983, they didn't have the greatest pitchers, and Jim Palmer was nearing the end, but other guys stepped up when it mattered. I think what I'm seeing is, and a lot of people, I wasn't alive then, but I have a lot of people that were, and I had, a certain family member that was on that team. And hearing the stories from the guys that played then, the experiences, they truly went through a roller coaster of a year, in the sense they could dominate for stretches, then they could look like they couldn't figure it out for stretches, and then they were able to get right and dominate at the right point at the end of the season, right? So I think if we're going to look at a similarity for the Orioles, they have the pieces in place. You have an MVP type player, plural, probably, with the Orioles, just like they did in 2000 or in 83 and 2024, with guys like Gunnar and Adley, and you got Santander. Really balanced lineup. In 83, you had some. Obviously, my dad was the MVP that year. Eddie Murray, Rick Dempsey behind the plate, a guy that could control a pitching staff. So you had pieces right there, and also Rick Dempsey, MVP of the World Series that year. So I think it's those similarities, but it's a great reminder is that team did have multiple 7-game plus losing streaks. So for the Orioles right now, you just want to keep going. You just got to battle through these tough moments. And quite frankly, I love that the Orioles are having to battle through this, because last year I think it went so perfectly They won every close game. They found a way every single time that the adversity wasn't really there. This year, the adversity is there. And I do think that that can help them as they get into some pressure situations. Let's go here. And this is what it's all about here, people. I'm just here answering questions until Yoni comes on. Let me see if I got a time on him. Yeah, I got a time on him. But let me answer those questions. Boom, 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 boom. Just giving. Got Yoni. Yoni's ready to rock and roll here in a moment. But question, as of right now, who do you see them bringing up in September when the roster expands? Definitely Kjerstad, barring that he's healthy, barring that everything's okay. I'd have to think about with the options in general, but I think that would be just the most notable bat, obviously. And now with the signing of JD Davis, what does that mean? Is that a guy that can, just like where a lot of people didn't like Aaron Hicks getting signed last year, he came to Baltimore and, how did he roll? Does Davis have a role? I don't have that answer for you right now, but I think it's more of that. And quite frankly, I just don't know on the pitching side right now. Keegan Aiken obviously was optioned down. I think we could see him back up in the bigs. I think just time's going to tell. But bat-wise, Kjerstad, no doubt about it. I think that he's truly the one. And Davis gives them the flexibility of veteran. So we will see. Would you let Trevor or Dean start a postseason game? Yes, I would. And I would still have Dean be the guy to start. At the moment, I'm a big believer in Dean more than other people. Dean's thing is not about his stuff. It's about being able to locate at the right times consistently. So, and Dean can rise to the occasion. Trevor, I think he's trying to figure himself out again. And talk about a guy that dealt with some lat issues in the past. Trevor Rogers is one of those. So, we got to, sorry. Sorry, making everything work and run here so our guests can join us, and I'm making sure I sent them the right link, transparent here. But I appreciate you guys with all the questions. Again, you new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Just talking some Major League Baseball, answering your questions. Be back in studio for the Ryan Ripken Show tomorrow. We're doing it live Thursday around 3:30-ish. I think we'll have a tip-off then. So any love for hockey? I mean, yeah, damn right I do. I mean, the Caps being right down the road from Baltimore. Yeah, I love the Caps. I want to see the Caps continue to have success. I grew up loving the Ducks because I'll be honest, as a kid, the Mighty Ducks, I thought it was just electric. Paul Correa and the name Timu Solani, I liked the name itself. And but the Caps, yeah, I love to follow hockey and playoff hockey. It's one of the most electrifying forms of entertainment you can have in all sports. Let's see where else we can go. Walter, with Kjerstad, I think a lot is I don't like the up and down. I think the concussion definitely threw him off on a path. And then the emergence back of Colton Cowser, also with the move for Eloy, there's just not a lot of room for him to play. I'd like to believe more, trying to get him right than anything else. But I feel for him. This is the part. They got a lot of guys that they don't have a lot of room for, if that makes sense. And you're not benching Santander, you're not benching Seti, you're not benching Cowser. And unfortunately, Heston's been on the wrong side of that. So that is just the reality of the year. I want to touch on this, and I'm going to bring Yoni on. So, do you think Hyde is the manager of this team next year? Way too far down the road with all this stuff, and I made this tweet last night. As much as people can be so frustrated with decisions, and I get it, and I'm not sitting here, and I even tweeted this out last night. I am not agreeing with every single managerial decision. I'm not. I scratch my head. I sit there and go, I wouldn't have done that. I don't believe in that type. I don't think that was the right move. And you could talk about bullpen moves, starting, how long to have a starter in, when do you pull a starter, giving a bullpen guy a clean inning, who do you trust, lineup wise, etc. So let's take a step back. Over the last 3 years, you can say what you want. The staff in general has done a great job. Brandon Hyde has done a great job. I'm not saying that he is perfect, but I think other people, the grass isn't always greener. And I think we're going to find out a lot about what happens down this stretch and into the postseason. But I think the criticism on Hyde last night was tough, but overall, I think it's too harsh given the track record the last 3 years. So without further ado, because this is kind of why I wanted to do this, and my guy Yoni, who he has been the go-to. You've seen him on here all the time before. So we're going to bring him on because the hot news right now is Grayson Rodriguez. So Yoni, I'm bringing you on. Just letting you know you're coming from behind the curtain.
Bam. How are we doing? I got you.
Perfect. I texted you last night because I saw it. I saw even Grayson say the words. You could read it out, right? Going, I don't feel right. And it seems to be a lat issue. So you were giving me the insight, but just talk to the rest of the group here. Your thoughts on what it means to deal with a lat injury.
In 2 words, I would say they suck. They're tough to rehab. That's not what you want to hear. They're tough to rehab, and they're tough to rehab for an important reason. Like that muscle attaches, it attaches to the shoulder. It also attaches to the ribs. It also attaches to your pelvis. In a lot of instances, it comes all the way down and attaches to the rim of the pelvis, sometimes just into this fibrous portion called your thoracolumbar fascia. And the reason that's important is it spans such a huge distance from pelvis all the way up to humerus, your upper arm bone. And so when that happens, there's so many factors that can cause it to be a problem. We see this show up, like many things, but specifically the lat, in guys that throw freaking hard. And that's definitely Grayson. And so they're tough to put back together, for lack of a better term, and they're not quick.
So let me ask you that then. Let's go on this because we've said this was something, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, this was in the past. Grayson's had an issue with this one. I believe Max Scherzer dealt with this last year, and then he tried to come back and had the re-injury. So what do you think then the best case scenario right now could be? Like if this is, because it doesn't seem like this is something that can be, hey, it can be a quick fix. You can maintain it, right? You can maintain it, but it's something that you're going to have to closely monitor so it doesn't, if it already hasn't turned into something that's more dire.
Yeah, I think that's a great description. I mean, you said Grayson dealt with this a little while back while he was in the minors, and he took 3 months off. So if you're talking about that, he's missing the rest of the season. I think it is a very small chance that we see this guy in 6 weeks if it's truly a lat strain. I mean, in similar New England Patriots fashion, we don't know what the level of injury is. We don't know what exactly that imaging said. If you're going to tell me that it's a significant lat injury, you've seen the last of Grayson in 24.
Well, Yoni, thank you for joining.
Dude, I wish I could bring you good news.
But you know what? But this is why I love having you on, for this exact reason, because it's just being realistic and what you're dealing with and what happens. Because the biggest thing so far that we've heard throughout this year, pitching injuries, obviously to players' elbows. We've seen it with the Orioles. The different procedures you can have for elbows. And for those that are interested, we have another video about that. Yoni gave a fantastic description. And by the way, for anyone that's also wondering for physical therapy in the area, True Sports, Yoni works with the professionals on a daily basis, and plus for other high performance athletes. So the knowledge and what he's doing, again, he knows exactly what he's talking about. And the whole Kyle Bradis situation, my teammate, we've had this conversation for a long time. Yoni's spot on, which sometimes is to a fault. Yoni is to a fault, but
it's not to a fault. It just sucks.
Okay, that's fair enough. It sucks. That's exactly what it would be. So, okay, so let's play it out. Lat strain earliest time you're saying 6 weeks if there's a certain strain. Let's go down this path then, and I don't want to. Lat, any type of worst degree, lat tear, lat anything else, what does that recovery look like?
Okay, so when you get into what's called a type 3 or type 4 lat tear, that's when it begins to come off of the bone up in the humerus region, up towards the shoulder. Those are surgically repaired. They have a very high success rate. Those guys get back and they get back to the previous level of function or success. You're talking about even specifically those athletes, their WAR, their strikeout ratios are exactly the same when they come back post-op, as long as it's rehabbed appropriately, obviously. So that's really encouraging. The problem is when you're in between, when you're kind of hoping to avoid surgery, and then, hey, 4-6 weeks into rehab, you're like, this ain't working. Then you got to go under the knife. Obviously, that just prolongs the comeback period. It's a very small sample size. We're very new in this lat world. It's not like Tommy John. So it's a small sample size of guys who have gone through this. There are a few experts in the area that do a lot of lat repairs. So he's probably going to have to fly outside of the organization to get that done, and then come back if it's that bad. But I think that's the range you're looking at. So they'll probably give him 4 to 6 weeks to rehab. How good is he going to get? He goes under the knife. Then you're looking at 6 months until he's really feeling good, possibly longer until he feels 100%. Those are best and worst cases.
So to go off of that then, because we're looking at the grades, right? The grades, the higher the grade, meaning, 2, 3, that means the higher the severity for everyone, again, that's following. So typically, though, at least in this case, watching it, it doesn't look like we're going to get to the tear part, right? Because at least Grayson it was during warmups and something didn't feel right. So I'm going to be optimistic here on that part, right? I mean, this wasn't in the game. This was him tossing on the side of the field, so the intensity wasn't as high. So, right, the likeliness of it being as severe, hopefully, is less.
Glass half full, Rip. Like, I love the way you're looking at it. I love that that's optimistic. Yeah, just because, like, in somewhat of the recent past, like Jake Peavy was on the mound. He unloaded a fast one, immediately grabs his arm, and it ripped it all the way off the bone, and that was traumatic. It doesn't have to look like that in order for it to be a higher level tear. It could have been Grayson's been dealing this for a while. All of a sudden, it became too much for him to get on the mound, and it's torn. Again, I hate to be a pessimist, but I wouldn't read into the fact that it's warm-ups, so I'm sure it's just a small strain. Also, the fact that he's had a past injury in this exact area, he's already dealt with this. I would say that means it's probably more severe of a tear than in the past. And you'll see this a lot with lat tears, where they'll tear it, they rehab it, they come back for a certain amount of time, however long, you never really know, and then straw that breaks the camel's back. You'll see this as guys increase in velocity, and you'll see as it increases in workload, like most things. I think it's interesting. Like Grayson I think he has the same amount of starts, or very similar to what he had in all of 23. So his workload at the big league level is higher than it's ever been. This could have just been the straw that broke the camel's back. There's no way to guess as to what that MRI showed in terms of severity based upon his response or when it happened.
Right. And so I was just looking back on his lat strain from a couple of years ago, and it was looking like it was a grade 2. I think was categorized between the 1 and 2. So context there. So because of that, then, and earlier people forget, he was on the IL for shoulder inflammation. Is there, and again, just help people understand this. And I understand when some things are maybe off a little bit, at times you can try to overcompensate. Is this can this correlate at all with the inflammation with his shoulder, or is this 2 separate things?
It's definitely not 2 separate things, or I would bet that they're related. So the lat is fascinating because it's a massive muscle. It produces a tremendous amount of force. Guys that throw really hard, they know how to use their lat to create velocity. And usually they're going to overwork it either in the weight room because they're just doing too much lat stuff. I don't know what their strength and conditioning program looks like. I know their strength and conditioning coach. I think he's top notch, but I don't know what that program looks like. That's one way where you overtrain it. The other way is, hey, my rotator cuff isn't doing an awesome job, so my lat is going to then have to overwork. Yeah. And that's where you'll see these things blow up. So if the inflammation was sitting on his rotator cuff shut down a little bit, now I'm going to rely more on my lat. you're more likely to pull your lat. It's also like, just to add complexity to it, which is why like my opening statement was they suck, is because of the lat attachments down onto the rib. I mean, it comes all the way down, attaches to the rib, goes all the way up and touches a big part of the shoulder. So Grayson's a big dude, and it's a matter of how well he supports his midsection and teaching his core to function appropriately, and to just get the core working properly, then to get his pelvis working properly, to get his shoulder blade and his humerus up to snuff. Any one of those things can be awry, and the lat's going to go to hell. So that's why it takes a little bit of time to get these guys all the way back, and that's why it's likely to re-injure it if you already have some damage. It's also, not to get overly intricate here, you have between 8 and 12 tendons running through this very narrow gutter around the shoulder in that area where it attaches. And because pitchers work so hard and throw so hard, usually that tissue is not the healthiest. So it's very hard to get blood flow into there and for it to repair itself. So I am sure a part of his rehab, if it's not surgical, will include the PRP world, like we spoke about with Bradish, to try to speed up this healing. And it's really this crazy jigsaw puzzle of trying to figure out what led to this injury and how do we put a Band-Aid on that to get him back on the mound.
Yeah, I think I appreciate the intricacies, because I find that fascinating because of the fact of there are so many little parts that go into going out there and having success, and how you need to make sure those things are in tune. That's why essentially the profession you're in, Yoni, you understand that's what you guys are focusing on, is how do we get every single thing as properly firing as possible, because if one thing is off, it can start a chain reaction, right? And that's the part where it's very, very worrisome. So yeah, you know what? That's the wide range of outcomes. That's essentially it. It's a wide range of outcomes when you have more pieces involved. We'll answer then this question, because this is kind of what I went on. If you guys are new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. But we'll get all hypothetical. If there was a tear and things were happening, you had to go under. You can read it right here. Will he be okay for all of next season if his rehab is great?
Yes. Yeah, my answer is yes. Like I said, the success coming out of surgical interventions is very high and very good. So much so, I did a little bit of a deep dive into the literature. And in the literature, it talks about those who undergo surgical intervention, they do better in terms of their return to previous level of functions than do the conservatively managed athletes. So if they resign themselves to surgery, the chances are very high that he is the Grayson Rodriguez you've come to know and love next year.
Okay. So, hey, the positives here, if everything goes right, Grayson can be fine. Again, we are waiting to see the final results, but I think what's great, Yoni, is you are able to explain every which way. And for people that just tuned in, the reminder in this case, even if the best case scenario is a light lat strain, it looks like there's some sort of lat strain, right? The best case scenario, he's still missing how many weeks, you said, Yoni?
It's at a minimum 6 to 12.
Great.
Yeah. I mean, I would really say we're really lucky if it's 6 weeks. And that takes us all the way through. But it's like I said, it's a tough muscle because of where it attaches. It's also the job of the lat it's to slow the arm down as you reach all the way back to that layback period, right? And then as soon as it stops it from layback, it kicks on to fling your arm forward. And so it's under this massive strain all the way into that end range, that layback position. So you're at a major risk unless you let it heal all the way up. That's why it takes so long.
And I think I got to double check, but I'm pretty sure this is accurate. Seeing this comment, but if it is for Schmidt on the Yanks and has had a lat strain, it's August, right? And like that's the point you're trying to make of if that's I got to look at all the details with it, but hypothetically, right there, that's 12 weeks, right? So gotta hope for the best. Well, let's just switch to them one more thing, because I know I'll get you going on your day. But the only other pitching news on information was back to what we talked about a while ago when we had the conversation about Kyle Bradish. But this is with Danny Coulomb. Danny's not back, and they were taking bone chips out of his elbow. Everything seems to be moving in the right direction, but maybe you could enlighten just on the fact of, all right, that's removed. What are the final hurdles that Danny would have to face before getting back to action here in the next month?
Yeah. So with any surgery, right? Guy wakes up from surgery, you have to restore range of motion. That can take a few weeks to get that motion all the way back. Then you start talking about building up strength around the joint. And then, like we're talking about with the lat, now we're talking about leg strength. Now we're talking about core strength. Then we're talking about shoulder strength. Then we're talking about feel. Like when you get to pitchers, it's like the fine tuning, right? So it takes these guys a little bit longer so that the injury itself is corrected. The path back, you need to make sure all your ducks are in a row to ensure success. Did they talk about when they expect him back?
They initially were hoping in September. That was the
Yeah.
initial goal, was sometime in September. I'm not going to say on the earlier side, and I was just explaining as a question before you came on. I said I just want him to be ready for the postseason, to be completely honest. So that's all we know at the moment. He's
And that
progressing
and
on
that would
on
put him
time.
how far? Yeah, that would put him how far out of surgery?
I guess it was June. I got to look at the date with Kyle Bradish. The news was all announced for Bradish and Danny and all those guys right in, I like to say it was mid-June, right? Or right in, but so probably let's just call it beginning of June. So let's
Yeah.
say
So if it's beginning of June, best case scenario is September. I really think that you're spot on, Rip. Like
okay.
we hope that he's back for postseason, and then you got to worry about the touch aspect, like getting his feel back, and then how much, like what is his pitch count going to be, right? Because he's not going to be all the way up to 100%, but obviously he'd be a nice tool to have coming out of the bullpen.
No doubt about it. Because that's in high leverage situations right now. The one thing that I've gotten asked over and over again is, what are the Orioles going to do in those big moments? It's going to be a closer by committee at this moment in time. But the bigger thing that I said the Orioles need is guys in high leverage, and a guy that Hyde trusts, the Orioles have trusted. He's had success, has been Danny Coulomb, but also now for the second straight year, he's been dealing with, arm type of issues. And I'm sure that it correlated from last year, him missing time, to those bone chips now. So time will tell. Yoni, I'm hoping, and as soon as this comes out, I'm probably going to text you again and be like, well, here we are. Oh, and actually, Zach said June 19th it was announced.
Okay.
So there it was. June 19th it was announced that Danny, so I'd say probably a week or two before that a week before that he had surgery. It's my guess.
Okay. Yeah. So call it September 12th or thereabouts. I mean, you're headed to the postseason. Rip, you have to get one out in a high leverage situation. With the way it is right now, who are you bringing in?
Ooh. Well, you had to say that. Honestly,
Come on,
I
Rip.
bet a lot of people would say Burt Smith is the guy at the moment that they are comfortable with, but one out at this moment in time. I think Cano has started to build up that trust a little bit more. So I'd probably have to lean him or Webb, but Burt Smith, isn't it crazy? This is what I try to tell people. Everyone was like, who the heck is this guy?
Yep.
About a month and a half or whatever he came up, and now he's turned into a guy. But I guess that's the part. Do you have a one in particular where you're like, yep, I'm dialed in. This is my guy? Because before for me
No.
it was Danny.
No,
Danny.
yeah, it was Danny, and I think everyone would agree with that. But no, that's what scares me about this team. I mean, I think I'm with you. I think it would probably be Cano, but no, I don't love it.
Yeah. I don't love it either. And I love having you on, by the way. I don't love when it's for negative news. We just got to
Thanks,
have you
man.
come on. We got to have you come on one time too. And maybe this can, even as we get towards football season, because we're going to have a lot of coverage for football. And unfortunately for there's a lot of injuries. Really kind of break it down. But we got a lot more to discuss. Before I let you go, though, Yoni, because I know you
Go
got a
ahead.
busy day in general.
Is this gonna be a hot dog question? What is this about to be?
No. Okay, time out. We're not doing hot. This was just like a legit people helping people. I was just being like, hey, what at and what's going on, and then how I can bother you later. That was going to be kind of my question.
Okay. So say it again. What's your question?
No, quite okay. What do you got going on? What do you want to tell the people that you and True Sports have been up to or have going on? So if people want to know more, get more insight or get get themselves right, because you don't have to be a
Yeah.
super athlete to do this. Just talk about what you got going on.
Okay, so a couple things. One, on the patient side of things, on the athlete side of things, we've opened another clinic since you and I met. So we opened up another one up in Pennsylvania. I don't know, that doesn't help the Maryland crew, although there are a ton of Orioles fans up in Pennsylvania. So I'm sure they're all listening. So look out for more and more True Sports opening up in Pennsylvania. We provide one-on-one care for 45 minutes while being in network with your insurance in state-of-the-art performance facilities. Come check us out. There's no offering like that. On the PT side, if you have physical therapists, if you have athletic trainers, if you have strength coaches that listen to what you do, we launched our own ACL course that'll get you continuing ed. And it's exactly how we rehab the pros. And we're about to release that exact same model for overhead athletes. So it's us discussing exactly what I discussed on the Ryan Ripken show, which is, what are these injuries? Why do they happen? What do we do about them? Check us out, truesportspt.com.
Boom. And you know what? Now I thought of another question because it was baseball. There's another. I knew there was one I forgot before. I can't let you go just yet. Heston Kjerstad is back, but there's questions he hasn't played. There's grace period. Can you talk on just coming back from a concussion real quickly on what that can be? Because I think that is one thing. It's the gray area. And I know people look at football and they go, well, you clear concussion protocol and you can go out there and catch a ball and get hit. But you don't see it as much in baseball, but especially for a hitter, if you're off, it can be very evident that something's on. Can you just elaborate on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would actually worry more about it for a fielder than a hitter. You know, when a hitter is sitting up there, yes, the pitcher is deceiving them with movement of the ball, but it's a very blank hitting screen behind them, right? It's always a flush in these newer ballparks where it's a clean screen behind them, so they can see the ball coming and react to it accordingly. When you're playing outfield, that ball has to travel past the line of fans, then it goes up into the lights. You're tracking it with your eyes, but oh, by the way, you're running and predicting where it's going to go. If that ball is moving at all, that's going to give you a world of problems. So when you talk about concussion rehab, so much of it is on the vestibular system and our ability to track objects moving at differing speeds. Dude, that's baseball. And I think that shows up a ton in the field, especially with the blurred background. So I'm sure that's what Kjerstad's going through now, is making sure that his visual component is up to snuff and that he's able to track these objects without getting symptoms. Rehabbing that gets very sport specific once you clear those early stages, where you will have guys track objects with busy backgrounds, with blurry backgrounds, with changes in lights, and all of that is what a baseball player needs to do while he's playing the field.
And then just to, I'll ask a little bit more obvious questions, but just so you can elaborate on it more. Obviously, again, different severities of concussions, different lingering effects here. For let's just call it a mild concussion here, mild to moderate, what residually, even if you're cleared, how long can these effects linger, even though you're quote unquote kind of past some things?
Rip, you're going to hate this answer.
Oh boy, I'm sure.
I mean, I've treated professional baseball players that had a concussion over a year and a half, 2 years ago, and they're coming in now. They've been cleared, but they're coming in for rehab. So the effects can be long standing. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they're having trouble tracking the ball. It could mean they have headaches. It could mean they are having trouble tracking the ball. It could be a myriad of things, but they're able to pass the return to sport test or the return to play test. So it could be a really long time. For more minor concussions, that stuff can go away very rapidly if it's attacked head on. By the way, we have switched the way we rehab concussions. It used to be you lock yourself up, you go in a dark room. It's totally the opposite now. It's all about exposure therapy and getting these guys used to lights, used to moving objects, used to, by the way, heart rates. And the more your heart rate goes up, the more you have concussion symptoms. So getting guys acclimated to that has really cut down the amount of time it takes guys to return to the field.
I'm glad you mentioned that about how to work on recovery for concussions, and because that to me is fascinating, and that's something a little bit you alluded to that I started to see towards the end of my career, but it's been night and day, drastically different from what the forms or the methods to treat it before. So I definitely, especially, I wish that everyone stays healthy, but unfortunately, especially during football season, we're going to see a lot more injuries. So we can dive in. And last thing, and Zach, I don't know where you are, man. I know you can hide and come on the show. Can you break Zach's heart and just tell him there's no chance that Felix pitches despite him throwing on a mound right now? Or do you think Felix actually has a chance to pitch in October?
He's how far out? When was surgery?
Surgery was in October of last season, I believe. I think it was the end of September, October. So around a year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, September, October, he's not going to pitch before September, October. So, and do you want to trust that guy when he first gets on the mound to get your, in a high leverage situation? Probably not. You got to give him time.
I don't want him to blow it out either. I want him to. He's we talk about mortgaging the future in some cases, and I know that he's not this young closer, but he's a prime closer. And the Orioles are expecting to be good for years. You want your big guy to be ready to go. So I appreciate it's better when you say it than me. You can be the guy that can be objective like that, say it sucks, and shut things down. So when I say it, people are going, well, Rip, you're ruining the mood. Well, no, I'm just trying to be realistic. That's why I brought you on, really, Yoni, so you can be realistic for me.
To ruin the moon.
Yes, exactly. Well, I appreciate you. I think I have all the stuff right now. When we do the show and I bring you back on, I'll ask you more interesting questions. And one time I'm going to have you in studio because we're getting it all done and fixed up. Get you mic'd up, and we can go through like acting out actual situations.
Sick. That would be awesome. And unfortunately, Rip, we're going to have so much to talk about with the Ravens. We always do.
Wait, we got more to talk about on how I got some ideas for the fall, and even with our guy Nick Moore as well. So that'll be a lot of fun. But hey, Yoni, appreciate you. Thank you. And I'll let you know when I hear anything else with the Grayson news. All right.
I love it. Thanks, Rip. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you, Yoni. Thank you, everybody. I love that guy. He is unbelievable, and I hate sometimes how right he is, but he's right a lot. He gives such great insight. And for those that just missed, Aiden, if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. For all the people who are on the YouTube channel, I'm answering baseball questions right now about what's happening. Small recap. There's a wide range of outcomes is what Yoni was describing. And in this case, for Grayson, it looks like at least there's a strain. Yoni thinks at the minimum it's going to be 6 weeks. If it's anything more of a higher degree of a strain, then you're looking at a guy that can miss up to 12 weeks, 3 months. 12 weeks is 3 months. Come on, Ryan. But it could then push further on. It just depends on what's happening here. But again, if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button, and I appreciate it. And guys, I'm going to try to do more of this. I'm trying to work on my home studio right now. It's easier when I'm in studio and I can have the board. And by the way, if you guys didn't see, I did a Jackson Holliday breakdown. Might be a good time tomorrow to do a Coby Mayo breakdown for Orioles fans. But I try now for this show, Kevin and Zach React, which love it. Ryan Ripken Media, that's going to be on its own channel. They're going to do post-game lives after each Orioles game, Ravens game, breaking news. But anytime you see this channel light up to go live, your guy here is going to be on it. You're going to see my face. I'm trying to make it. I know that was one thing where people were getting confused. And I'll have more impromptu things like this where it was just Yoni and I were texting, and he just shot me a text and goes, hey, you want to hop on and talk? I go, you're damn right I do. Let's do this because we can give this information to everyone out there. Everyone out there to give them the right information. So again, hit that like and subscribe button. And guys, I see this in the chat. You guys keep talking about stuff with Trevor Bauer, and the regardless of how you feel about Bauer. And again, I'm not going to get into this. I'm just being objective. What I think is going to happen. I don't think he will be signed by anybody, and I'm not going to get into the reasons. We've heard all of them on both sides. People ask me my opinion on that of will he get signed? My opinion is if I'm looking at what the teams are going to do, I just don't see it happening. Okay. It's not me jumping into it. I just want to say that we don't have to get into, was he wronged? What are these cases? I'm not going to get into that. I get asked what I think the Orioles are going to do, or any baseball team. I don't think that any team will sign him. That's just what I see, and we will see what happens down there. So if that's fair to say. I know it's a sensitive subject for a lot of people, and I don't want to dive into that part. I just try to give people the conversation as much as possible. We've talked about it in depth on the show before, giving you insights of why I try to, when I speak to you guys, I try to give my own personal opinion, but then I also try to give you the opinion, what I think executives are thinking. And the Orioles being around, I have a pretty good pulse just from being in the organization on how they think, what moves that they do, and what happens. So that's what I try to do, give you both sides. And that's all I got to say about that. Again, if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe. Let's go back to then. Do you guys have any other questions specifically about baseball? Matt, I appreciate you guys in Cube. Great guest. Glad you enjoyed Yoni. He's fantastic. Truly. And again, True Sports Physical Therapy, one of the best that you can have, especially if you're in this area. Like you should. And if you're interested, reach out to me, and we'll go from there. Johnny, I think you were talking about Felix throwing off a mound. Yeah, there's normality to it. It's a progression, and he's being built up with a progression, but now it's the intensity levels that you're dealing with as a player. They have the progression for you as a pitcher, and that's on course with it. He's getting closer to being a year removed, but there's still a lot of hurdles he still has to go through. But yes, that is good. Bum, bum, bum. Did you ever play on the fields in Aberdeen as a kid? I did. I actually played on them right as they were being built, to be completely honest. And that was a blast, and actually they're even better now than they were. They scaled up mini Fenway Park up there. The Cal Senior's Yard, which is the replica of Camden Yards, is beautiful. And I love that. And Zach, are you going to tell me some bad news? I think you're joining to tell me some bad news.
No, I'm not. I decided to come into it. I wasn't sure how long you were going after. So once you started taking other questions, I was like, okay, I'll hop on.
Well,
You did break my heart though once again.
Yes. Yes.
The people.
So we didn't talk about, people were saying things about McDermott. McDermott is on the IL, which he's not going to be an option. That stinks. Did I say a Calvert Hall question right there?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. What was your record against Calvert Hall in high school? This is what the important questions.
It is in freshman year, not good. Not good. Sophomore year, we then lost 2 more. So I was 0-4 to start my high school career against Calvert Hall. Then we won the one that mattered the most. We won my sophomore year of high school, beat them in the championship. We were down 5-0 and came back, won 10-8. And at the time, Calvert Hall, Zach, just won every single year. They were so good. Junior year, they beat us pretty good in the 2 games that we faced. And senior year, we handled them. However, we choked in the playoffs. We didn't even get the rematch with Calvert Hall. They won the championship. They earned that, but that stung. We beat them both times my senior year, but we didn't face them again because we slipped up and we got beat by Curley and St. Paul's. Lamont Wade Jr. actually on the Giants, friend of mine, was on that St. Paul's team. Yeah, dude. Now I'm just bringing back memories, Andrew. It's bringing back. It was a good memory for a moment. Then I was like, damn, woof. Yeah, Joey, you know what? That Calvert Hall for a span of time, and now the team, I think, is Spalding. Spalding's just like this unreal juggernaut of a program. But for a while, it was, at least in my years, our top teams was Calvert Hall, us, Spalding. Curley had a good run. Loyola was that one team where it was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but they could get going, and they did. So, yeah. But we'll keep going on now.
I was just about to say, isn't it? Because I see a question about him. How important is Zach Eflin to this team now? I mean, you went from 2 weeks ago, you weren't even on the team, to now, hey, you're probably the number 2 starter in the playoffs. So talk about, real quick, you went from, okay, you're on the Rays, you'll see how it's going. You probably won't make the playoffs this year, maybe make a push for the postseason towards the end. Then suddenly it's like, oh, I'm the number 2 starter on a team that could potentially be the number 1 seed in the AL.
Mm-hmm. Whammy.
Yeah.
I dove into it a little bit, but I think it's fair. Do we talk about the Brandon? I know I heard you last night. I was driving home in the rain, pissing. And I heard you were very fired up last night. Yeah. And I understand. It's funny. So Steven asked, is Brandon's game management in question after the Holliday and Cows removes last night? And it's funny. I told people I went on 105.7 The Fan this morning to talk about it. I talk about it on here. I talk about it on TV. We talk about it on the Ryan Ripken show, which we do live Mondays and Thursdays with the complete group. These are just impromptus, like, hey, how you doing? Let me answer your questions, which is great. I don't like to dive in at an emotional time after a game where people are just ticked off. Yeah. Because it doesn't matter what I say. They're going to hate what I say, even unless I say something that gravitates towards you to be like, he's terrible. I hate this, right? Like, people want the anger. I said in the tweet, it was a great opportunity for Jackson Holliday last night. And I truly, truly mean that the Orioles had and as we do that.
Yes.
Yoni came on at the right damn time. Right damn time. There it is. Goodness gracious. So let me finish breaking news. Grayson Rodriguez is going on the IL. He's on the 15-day IL with lat discomfort. And I'm going to text Yoni right now because this is hilarious. Not hilarious that it happened, but of course, Yoni just was on to explain all this.
Discomfort, are they saying it's not a strain?
I don't know. And that's something that
kind of, I wish we could but I don't know if it is a strain and they're just putting it as discomfort right now, or if this is something where they looked at it and it said, oh, it's a strain, it's not a strain, it's discomfort, Yeah,
I'm texting Yoni right now. But again, this is the scenario right now where he's out. He's out, Sir Albert inserted back in to the starting rotation. But to finish the Brandon Hyde thought, analytics have helped in so many ways for the game. There's no doubt about it. You can make more calculated decisions. And for all the negative that Brandon Hyde had last night, you got to look at the positives, how well he's done at his pitch, having guys pinch hit. It's been truly incredible because it's so hard to pinch hit. It truly is. So got to give him credit for a lot of things on that. Having said that, I did not agree with the move last night. I did not agree with Jackson Holliday being taken out. I did not agree with Colton Cowser being taken out of the game. And the reasons why, when you're locked in as a hitter, it doesn't matter if it's a lefty, righty, tough matchup. You have Zeus out there throwing lightning bolts of fastballs. Don't matter. You feel like you can hit everything. So I would have loved the opportunity, especially for a guy with confidence. And Jackson's confidence was brewing. His approach, and I did that in the breakdown. You watch how he's hitting the baseball right now. He is doing everything that you want him to do. And for a young player, he wants that. And as me, I'd be pissed if I got taken out in that situation. It didn't hurt the team at the moment, but then Rowan Rivera strikes out. And then for Coby, I love Coby. I thought that was a really tough position to put Coby Mayo in.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to find his first hit, right? I didn't lose my mind. He still hasn't gotten his first hit in the big leagues.
Correct.
So he's trying to get comfortable. Biggest situation. Coby's going to live for those moments. He's going to be excited, right? But that's a hard moment for a guy that's rarely pinch hit in his career. He's in the big leagues trying to collect his first hit. And you have Colton Cowser that has really been in some big moments for the team. I just didn't like that. So I don't blame people for being upset. But again, I wouldn't have done that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a bad situation. And in the Soto situation, you gave a guy a chance to try to build off of, his time in Baltimore. It's been a struggle for Soto, and it backfired. Honestly, I know people think the other way. That one doesn't bother me as much as the pulling the hitters. I'll be completely honest, because that one was, you trusted a matchup. You would hope that one of your pieces would work. It didn't work. And now at this time, Soto's not a guy you can trust in high leverage. And maybe people are saying you knew that beforehand. Well, I get it, but certainly that right now, that this is something he's going to have to work through. But for me, two of your hitters being taken out, I just thought it was a great, great opportunity for Jackson and Colton to go there. So we'll see. And again, if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. The breaking news right now. I don't know if we should even change the title on YouTube at this point, Zach.
You've already changed.
You did? Okay, that's great.
Yeah. That's what I was doing. I just made the new thumbnail and everything. So,
goodness gracious. So that's so back to this. Could Irvin play a big part for the rest of the year? You're damn right. You're damn right he could, because with McDermott out, Povich is going to have to be in this conversation as well. The Orioles are just so depleted. And for everyone saying they didn't do enough at the deadline, they didn't make enough moves, how can you account for this many injuries to pitchers? Truly. And that's something where it's super unfortunate. But Cole Irvin is a guy that could get another chance here to come back into the equation. But Albert Suarez probably, to me, is going to be the biggest X factor. And quite frankly, Trevor Rogers, honestly, I'm really curious, Zach, to see Trevor Rogers the last month and a half.
Yeah, no pressure, Trevor, but you now got bumped up in the rotation too. He's another guy that was pitching really well before he got here. Then he had the one rough start, but it's funny. Obviously, there's not as much pressure in Miami to wheel and deal and put on consistent, solid outings. And now all of a sudden you're in the middle of a pennant race, and it's like, okay, there's no time for Rodgers to be like, okay, over this next month or so, I'm going to try to get my feel in this new system. It's like, unfortunately, especially with Grayson now being out, you're now questionably 3-4. So it's like, you're going to be out there for the playoffs. We need you during this push now.
Yeah, for sure. And also, this is actually what Yoni talked about as well. So I guess back on the concussion list, had Yoni talk about that. And there was a residual effect. And even if you guys heard Yoni talk about it, we have so many. These are clips that are going out now, Zach. So just letting you know for thumbnails. Yoni explained that the residual effect, he has guys that he's working with now in physical therapy that have had concussions over a year ago. So clearly it's hard when you start having things that are impacting your head, your brain, your cognitive ability. So yeah, it's tough, but it makes sense. It makes sense so far what's happening, and we're gonna see where the cookie crumbles. And again, if you guys are just tuning in, Grayson Rodriguez, he's on the IL, and it's discomfort right now.
Yeah, I'm very not confused. It's obviously sports talk. They're not going to give how long they think, what they know right now. But I would be lying if I said I don't feel a little bit more optimistic now than I did 30 minutes ago, because they very well could have just been, grade 3 strain and then done. But, just not seeing strain yet, because even as Yoni just talked about, even a grade 1 strain, a partial strain, is going to have him out at best probably 6 weeks. So if we could just avoid the strain word altogether, that would be best case scenario.
Yeah. So what this kind of all means, though, and I saw this leads into this conversation. Joseph, appreciate you. And again, you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. This is the Ryan Ripken channel show impromptu. And again, officially now, Kevin and Zach React is doing their live post games and reactions on their own channel. So you guys can like and subscribe over there. They're all part of the Ryan Ripken show and media. But now every time you see something happen on this channel, because I had a lot of those, well, does Ryan even show up to his show or channel? If you see it pop up, you're going to see me. So stop traffic. That's what we're doing now. But Joseph, what are the realistic expectations for the season moving forward? Make the wild card and hope not to be a one and done. No, the realistic expectations are to go to a World Series. It's the expectation just because of injuries doesn't change on a very talented team. Does it make the goal more challenging and harder? Absolutely. You know, having one of your best arms be put on the IL again, that hurts. Absolutely. Yeah. Now, guys are going to have to step up. You have a talented offense. You have some talented players that are on your team. You are just going to have to put together a run here that you're playing well moving forward. The one thing now, quite frankly, for the Orioles, realistically, of course, you want to win the AL East. That no doubt. Yeah. You want to get in. You got to get in. And then all bets are off. So to me, that's what I look for the most with the Orioles. Can you get to the postseason? Can Corbin Burnes be there? If Corbin Burnes is good going, if Corbin was the guy that went down, that is devastating. And not that Grayson is, I'm already knocking on wood, but Corbin Burnes has been everything to this team and more from a success rate. So, yeah. But if you have that guy right now, and you have a guy like Zach Eflin, who is just building confidence here, and a guy, and I know people get on Dean. Dean can pitch up to big games. It's just about his consistency. You have Corbin, you have Eflin, you're going to have a chance.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. All right, do you have a better chance with Grayson? Yes. So it's that. And on the other side, you got to see what's going to happen on the other hand with Danny Coulomb and who's coming back and blah, 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 blah there. So, and Steve, you're welcome. That's why I asked Yoni about Kerstad. People helping people. That's what we're about here on the Ryan Ripken Show. Steve, do we ask about, I'm asking because if there's many injuries to the pitching staff, maybe it's due to coaching or strength and conditioning changes.
Every pitcher and every team's getting injured right now, it feels like. So it's hard to say it's just the Orioles. Like maybe something small here or there is leading to, it's hard to say it's not at all because of how they're conditioning, whatever. But pitching injuries are just such a massive part of the game right now at every
turn.
Yeah, every turn. It feels like every day, unfortunately, some team is losing someone from their rotation, someone from the bullpen. It's really tough right now.
Yeah, and also too, I got to pull, digging deep with podcasts that for probably the name that everyone knows, the bigger name on it is Eric Hosmer, but the other guys, Peter Mullen, talking about. I believe in Anthony Saratelli as well. That's again, no one's going to know with Anthony, former player, play with Hosmer, but all of them, they have the podcast there. And I believe they had the Royals general manager on. I got to find that clip, Zach, but he talks about injuries for pitchers. And it's true though. And Yoni would probably agree with this. So many players now, the training has changed where the strength component in the offseason, you're not giving your arm maybe as much of a break as you used to. It was when baseball ended, you weren't picking up a ball until December, January, and now a lot of guys are back in the lab to try to throw harder in the offseason, right? Like, so they're literally pushing themselves and putting their body then in positions that can be overused. But then when you throw harder, and there's more giddy up on it, yeah, you're going to be more prone with the violence of the pitches to be prone to more injury. And I think that it's the combination of both. I mean, the other part that was brought up with Yoni, and I hope to try to guide. What do you got?
Just real quick, I wanted to answer this question because I know it wasn't you who talked about it. Patrick asked, do you think the pitchers are getting hurt now is from them throwing more when they were in high school? Actually, someone who brought this up was Jeff Passan on the show when we asked him about this. And he said it does, he thinks, start at an earlier age these days. And that is a massive problem because kids, to your point, Rip, it's the same, in MLB all the way down to high school, it feels like now, where kids are throwing 365 days a year. And, there is no off season. That's why so many of these sports doctors, and they're talking about you have to play multiple sports, give your body a break. Corbin Burns, multi-sport athlete. Like so many of these guys that you see now were multi-sport athletes. Gunnar Henderson was a basketball player. Like that's, kind of helping take the load off your body and also gives your body different movements because each sport you do different things laterally and stuff. So yeah, I do think a big part of it, me personally, and we've talked to Jeff Passan about it when he was on the show. It's because of how early they're starting. It doesn't help the situation, that's for sure.
No, I mean, if you're looking at two guys that come to mind to me that had explosive fastballs, one, the Orioles fan base would know well, is Dylan Bundy. He's throwing fuzz coming out of high school and had a lot of arm issues. Another one people won't know, but he was the second overall pick in the 2014 draft, and that was the year I was drafted and signed by the Nationals. A pitcher named Tyler Kolek. He's throwing 100 out of high school. I don't believe, Zach, he got out of high A or maybe double A. So many arm issues. So many. So I think there's a combination of, at that age, your body's still trying to develop. Your body's still growing. So, again, it's a different sense here. But, look at a guy like Jackson Holliday where people are talking about his physique. Oh, he looks like a kid. He's strong. But
forearms, jeez.
But he's 20.
Yeah.
Right? So the development process for guys. Now imagine pitchers, the guys where you hear the stories of like David Price throwing 84, 85 in high school, and then he's bumping it up to 97. Josh Hader, same thing. Justin Verlander. It's the evolution of your body as you get older as well. Some of these things, when you put your body through so much hard training, which you do nowadays, right? Like it pays off. You throw hard, you get rewarded, which I 100% understand. But that's just the nature of the beast nowadays that's happening. And anyway, I was going to say with Yoni, though, Zach, as far as with Grayson, one thing can lead to another. So Grayson's been dealing with shoulder inflammation. Anytime then if you have some sort of other injury, we've all done it, you can overcompensate. And even if you don't think you're doing it, it can have a trickle-down effect. And I think that's the intricacy that Yoni, I wanted him to discuss, and he did, and it was fantastic. So that's just the context there of what's going on. So appreciate you guys. If you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken, the channel, Ryan Ripken Show channel. I'm going to change the name of it as well. Everything that's Ryan Ripken related that my face is going to be on, it's going to be on this channel. Kevin and Zach Reacts, part of the Ryan Ripken Media. They will be on Kevin and Zach Reacts. You should subscribe to them. And they can get a little bit crazier over there at the same time. So, that's
sometimes it's Kevin and Zach overreacts. That's what
definitely was last night. Definitely was last night.
Malpractice. I'll still say that.
Yep, we got some good kids here. I'm trying to think. Are there any other questions that we can answer and talk about? It doesn't even have to be about Orioles. It can be about baseball. It can be about life. It can be about whatever you guys want it to be. And one of these days I'll tell more and more stories about whatever it is some people want to hear about. But, and Kayla, I mentioned this already earlier. I don't really want to rehash all of the reasons why I don't think it's going to happen. And again, this isn't me, getting into this discussion about Bauer, because we've talked about this, Zach, multiple times in the past about this situation. And what I try to do is I'm not going to go and break down, get into the legalities, talk about what's happened in the past with MLB, with Bauer's personal history. I just try to give you guys insight of what I think the team would do. And I don't believe, not just the Orioles, any team will make a move to get Bauer. And I'm just going to leave it at that. We've talked about it extensively in the past. People think we're picking a side. I'm not picking a side on this. I get asked the question. I just try to be objective with an answer. And the answer is I just don't see it. I don't think it's going to happen. And I'm just going to leave it at that. So we'll go back to this. Who's going to replace Grayson in the rotation? Albert Suarez.
Yeah.
It's gonna be Albert.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Big Al. Hey. And also, by the way, you guys mentioned this last night. He had a great start, and that's why people were like, damn, we missed an opportunity to get a win with Albert. My biggest thing is Albert got 5 and saved the pen. When you have a starter that's not going to pitch, and then all of a sudden
it's like 15-minute notice.
I'd be like, hey, dude, we need you to pitch, and we need you to go as much as you can.
He had to spend obviously some away teams do this anyway, some pitchers when they are pitching away, but he literally stayed the top half of the first inning in the bullpen because he had to finish warming up. Like, this was not like an hour beforehand. They're like, hey, Grayson can't go. Can you do your warm-up thing? He's preparing like he's in the bullpen all day. And you know how many guys, starters talk about the day you start, you're in a whole different world. It's don't talk to me. I do my routine, all this. He got none of that. It was show up to the ballpark, mosey around. I was laughing with people, doing Big Al stuff. And then suddenly 10 minutes before the game, it's like, hey, Albert, you're starting. Can you go grab a ball and get ready? Because first pitch is in 10 minutes. And he went 5 scoreless. So.
And you need, I can't tell people how valuable it is to have guys like that, and to be able to go out there and be able to handle the moment. It helps he's a veteran. It helps that he's, or when I say veteran, he's an older pitcher that's, he's comfortable with what it is and what he's trying to do, and he's found that. So we'll kind of see a couple more questions, and I think we'll wrap it up here. And again, new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe. Other things, I'm getting football news, Zach, on my phone, and our trades being made, which it's always fun during football season too, right? And preseason storylines, the ones around Pittsburgh are always fascinating, just being from Baltimore with Fields and Ayuk and yada yada yada. But let me answer this question.
Yeah.
Well, one thing was, yes, is there a link for Zach and Kevin's show now? We can't find it after the game. Zach can find a link, but if you just type in at Kevin.
I got a link, right?
Okay.
So that link it's
right here.
So, right here. I'll also toss it in the description underneath the just so that if people want to go there, it's also now in the description. So
for sure. Nomadic Brian, how we doing? How far away is Sam Basayo? And when he comes up, how will the catcher scenario play out? I don't see Sam Basayo in this equation at all in 2024. I think we're looking at a 2025 scenario.
Like September 2025 is more
late. And people forget he's so young.
He's 19 still, right?
What?
Is he still 19 or did he turn 20?
Yeah, he's still 19. So I think he's going to be in AAA here by the end of the season soon. But for right now, that's not the pressing need at the moment. And I think that they're going to take some time with him. So I don't think there's anything in the immediate future that's going to change that thought process. Saying who has a better shot at a ring, Joseph? Well, honestly, I want both teams to be in the dance. whoever's in there. And honestly, I think that they both can have a good shot. Baseball truly, it's like, unlike football, where football can have a hot team make a run. Like, I'm not going to dispute that. But typically speaking, it's usually one of the two. In the past, it was one of the two teams that got a bye. We're ending up having an advantage in going. In the past, it was always the Patriots and the Chiefs and the 49ers last year, and stuff like that. Baseball, truly, you can be the wild card team that barely sneaks in, and then you just go on a bender. So Diamondbacks bender all the way to the World Series. So Nationals, bad team to start the year at 19, grinded their way in, and then they won the World Series. So I think they both got good chances as long as they get in. But for the Ravens, they in the AFC, they're one of the top teams, just like the Orioles. I think it's fair to say Orioles and Ravens probably have the top three odds in their respective division or leagues, conferences to go to the World Series. So yeah, absolutely. And yeah, everyone appreciate the like and subscribes. And we got so much planned for football season, by the way. A lot planned for football that we will continue to talk about. We will do a Ryan Ripken Show fantasy football program and show for everyone's involved. So stay tuned on that coming up. But we're still going to be covering baseball all the way through the postseason. So do not worry 1 second for all my baseball lovers out there. Patrick, for the Niners to get her trade for Ayuk, they want a first-round pick. I don't think they're going to get a first-round pick.
I think it's going to be players.
I think that, it's just hard. It's very hard for wide receivers to get a first-round pick right now in this case with certain guys. So I'm like, I think Ayuk's a great player.
Second plus. I think it's going to be second plus a player.
Yeah, I mean, it's just there's too many different values, especially you're going to have to pay the guy, and it'd be different if it was a guy like, say, like a Tyreek Hill, a Justin Jefferson-esque player, CeeDee Lamb. Like CeeDee Lamb would get a first-round pick right now.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll kind of see what happens. Okay, is there a reason Hyde leaves relievers in for too long? I think a bigger part with Hyde is one thing I'd like to see sometimes is to let starting pitchers go a little bit longer if they can. And for relievers, I love giving relievers clean innings if you can. Like, I know there's matchups, but I think trying to clean that up. But I think that's so hard. I think it's a context question because it's always going to be in hindsight. Well, did you leave a guy in too long? Right? Like, did he face one batter, two batter, too many? Should he have gone out for another inning? I think you kind of have to see where guys on. And one thing I tell people with relievers and starters, if a starter struggled, actually, I think it was Edward Cabrera with the Marlins a couple weeks ago, Zach, when they faced the Orioles.
Yeah.
And Cabrera had a fantastic start to me, but he had struggled for his previous outings, and he was dealing versus the Orioles. But then the Marlins pushed him too far. Like in that case, he was starting to give a little bit, but got out of the damage. Right there, when you see the give, they're like, okay, he's having some struggles. I would sit down Edward and say, hey, man, you did your job. Great. And he'd probably be pissed. He wants to go out there and play, but it builds confidence for the next start.
Yeah.
Then Edward went out the next inning, gave it up, and now you're sitting there going, damn, I have a bad taste in my mouth. I didn't finish it the way that I wanted. So I lean with that with starters and relievers, though. I think it's just so hindsight. But if I have a choice to have a reliever come in with a clean inning to be in a situation, I'd much rather have that than have them come in and inherit runners where not every guy's comfortable with doing that. And that's a whole – and I guess we can say that with Soto. Soto was not comfortable in that situation last night. So
yeah,
we can go with that. I got to get my charger for a second, Zach. You can keep answering some questions.
All right, bet. So,
that's me. There, I get you.
All right, I'll do it.
There we go. I got it.
Okay, there we go. All right, so here, let's go through a few more questions. To our players, we got a lot of stuff about. Yeah, I was hired as the manager last night. It was a vote. So that was pretty dope. Who will be the closer in October? Honestly, for me, I think it's still going to be Craig Kimbrell. I think they trust him. If it was me, I would make it Cano. But if I were to guess where the Orioles are going to lean, they still consider Craig Kimbrell as like their closer type. I don't necessarily agree with it. I think Yennier Cano would be better in that situation. I trust Yennier Cano more. If Danny Coulombe was 100% healthy, I would go Danny Coulombe. But from what I truly believe the Orioles will do, they seem to trust Kimbrell. That's the guy that they want to be the closer at least. So it's going to be, yeah, Steven, they've said, and I even said this, that right now they're running with closer by committee, but I think that they want to go Kimbrell eventually if they had their way. We'll see how it works out. I would prefer it be when Kimbrell's hot and going on one of his hot streaks. If not, I think it would be stupid to send him out there if he's doing one of those things where it's the 3 blown saves in a week. It's hard to trust him, but I think they're going to say it's closer by committee, but deep down, I think they're going to give Kimbrell the nod when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I'm with you. You know where I am with this, with it. I think that Craig is a guy you need. I said this earlier when we started. He's a guy you need, whether you like that or not. You need him. He's a guy that's proven he is capable of doing it. He had a fantastic – he should have been an all-star. He was pitching like an all-star. And then, yes, we understand the recent situations with Craig, but he's shown you he can do it still. What happened?
Jacob Webb is now on the 15-day IL with right elbow inflammation. They have recalled Brian Baker. When it rains, it pours. When it rains, it pours. Good, tweet that out. When it rains.
Holy shirts and pants. Like, at some point, there's only so much you can really say about it. Like, there's just, well, now your high leverage guys diminished even a little bit more.
Yeah. This is tough.
Yeah, and for those who are saying about, and the one thing, this is only the thing that that's what I'm saying. It's not fair to say for Hyde or any of the pitching staffs, or like, people thinking these injuries have happened because of that correlation. I don't think that that's fair, But one thing you're saying about for pitchers and for your bullpen preserving, if there's one thing I'd like to see, and that's why when I was saying I'd want to see how much I can stretch my starters if they are comfortable. But the Orioles, as we've seen, they've had a lot of issues with their starters in general with just injuries, is that you want to try to preserve your bullpen arms because they can be taxing. So that's the biggest thing. It can be taxing, and then you can be in certain situations. But that's why I'm saying it's not a correlation of seeing people going, well, Hyde's bringing guys in. And it's not fair at any time to say that the staff is the reason for these injuries. But I just wanted to make the point of, in general, this isn't a recency bias. This is just an overall opinion of mine. I always like to see pitchers just try to preserve your bullpen as much as you can. That's just all I got to say with that. So,
when it rains, it pours.
Yeah, and Patrick, that's what I'm saying. Like that's it, with all the injuries, you can't. Earlier the conversation was what I'd like to see with pitchers in general when they said about with Hyde's decisions. I just said personally, I would love to just see starters go deeper into the game and give relievers cleaner innings, because you just don't want to have it, break the seal and then you're using up more arms on a day-to-day. That's just correlated with the fact that we just saw another injury, but there's no correlation with that. It just happened to be talking about it at the same time. So, yeah, and Natalie, there's the link. Where's the link for the Zach Reacts? It's right there. It's in the chat. whammy. Good times. Good times. Guys, but this is the thing, too. It's frustrating to hear about injuries that happen. And you guys know me. Like, you got to keep rolling. You know, no one feels bad for you when you have injuries in baseball. You just got to keep going. It sucks. It stinks. But I'll tell you what, the team, not for 1 second are they going to, put their head down. They're going to keep grinding. They're going to keep battling. They still believe that they are a team that's going to contend. I still think that too. You just got to get to the postseason and see what you can do. Quite frankly, right now, that would be the best case scenario for the Orioles. In the postseason, try to line up your rotation. You can have guys come back early to start games. That's the best case for Baltimore. So just got to keep grinding. So, yeah.
Gotta get hot at the right time. That's all you can hope for. Just get hot at the right time.
Hot at the right time.
What the Rangers did last year. So,
yeah.
Let's make it to the dance. Just make it to the dance and see what happens from there. That's all you can do. Orioles came in last year, all sunshine and rainbows, and got punched in the mouth. This year, they are as battle-tested as it will be. Just get hot at the right time.
Yep. I agree, and I know our numbers are rising right now. I just got to go. I gotta hop off. I wasn't expecting to be on this long, but
yeah. Well, the Orioles. It started off with just a casual conversation of Yoni once again breaking our hearts, and then it kind of just snowballed from there with all these injury updates just flowing in.
Yeah, and also, Steve, I feel it. I got you. There's no worries there. I know you weren't placing blame, and that wasn't the part. I didn't want it to come off that I was blaming anybody in particular about it, and it's so all good there. The point was, in general, the reality and fact is the way people throw, the way people grip the ball, the way people train has all changed drastically, and that is putting more impact on pitchers. That is a fact. That is what's happened in general. So that's all I have to say about that. So, and then then people can talk about if people are speeding up if you're speeding up the internal yourself with the pitch clock and you have maximum energy. It's all going together. All right. End break and scene. Guys, hit that like and subscribe button. We will be going live tomorrow for the Ryan Ripken show around 3:30-ish tip-off. I'll have another breakdown. I'm thinking Coby Mayo just to talk to people about it because I've been asked about it quite a bit.
Oh, you know what?
Check out that Jackson Holliday breakdown.
You know what? One we might have you do soon is might have to go Colton Cowser over in the second half.
Oh, yeah, I can do that. You can do those. So, you guys, check out the other videos on the channel. Did a breakdown. Sat down with my Uncle Bill recently. Talked about baseball a lot for those that love it. What else did we do? Done a lot. Enrique Bradfield Jr. interview. Go check out the other videos. And if you missed the Yoni, we're going to clip that up so you guys can see what we talked about here today. All right. So appreciate you guys as always. Have a day, have a night, and see you tomorrow for a regular session of the Ryan Ripken Show.
Peace out, guys.